I'm not sure why I'm recording this, but I'm going to. What I've done is I've handed people there's a handout, and for those of you that are online, basically it's a scan of the same thing. And so I put together a compilation of scripts and forms and things like that to give you options. And I do have the originals of all of these. And if somebody felt like being a project manager and wanting to organize them, I would be happy to do that, right? But there's also one that already looks nice. So first of all, the beginning of this is a buyer consultation script, and you're going to see it. I've had several of them, which I've all thrown into the mix. And so this is called the Set the Stage script. By the way, I didn't bring it, but in my office, I have a wicker basket. And in the wicker basket is goodies, right? There's snacks, right? Some people have already found that because they go into my office and steal my snacks. Hi, how you doing? Could I have your job? You have to either give it to me, put there, or you have to hand them out. So it's good to have snacks. Like I have a wicker basket with stuff. So I would bring it in, put it on the table. Sometimes they have kids. Sometimes they're just hungry. Even if they don't, it's good to do. There's little water bottles in the basket. It's a good way. And the best way to start any kind of a consultation is to go through an agenda. And although I didn't type one up because, I don't know, many times I actually would create an agenda. If you go into Microsoft Word or Publisher or one of those programs, they have it says agenda, and you could list what it is that you're going to talk about, right? But a script, this isn't a bad one. It says, thank you for taking the time with me today. The purpose of our meeting is for me to thoroughly understand your wants and needs so we can find your ideal home or property, right? And my job today is to find out what kind of home or property will suit your lifestyle needs and wants. I'll educate you in the entire home buying process, answer all your questions, and then find out if this is something you want to pursue. Before we go visit any properties, we're going to define your ideal home, property, make sure it meets your financial needs, and then thoroughly discuss our expectations and roles in this business relationship. My mission is to find a house property that meets your needs and which is in your budget. We'll do that for the least amount of hassle and get you into your new property when you need to be there. How does that sound? Now, if you're welcome to write your own, but these aren't exactly my words, but I said something very similar to it. Right? And after a few hundred of these, I don't actually have a script that I bring with me, but I say the same thing pretty much every time. Some people have heard me on more than one occasion at an open house or at a buyer consultation, and they typically remark, you say exactly the same thing every time. Every time you're saying exactly the same thing, right? Now, there's some value in that, you understand? And you ought to have a plan, you ought to have a script. If you like these, I believe that it's better to just memorize something, right? Many times real estate agents resist the idea of scripting. The reality is we all have scripts, right? You understand? If you've got kids and your kids say, can I have a cookie? Can I have, you have a script, right? No. But no, that's the Russian script.
Go ask your dad.
No. But we all have scripts. The question is it any good, right? And the other thing is are you going to wing it when you're meeting with somebody? Is that when you're going to decide what to say or what you're going to do? Right? That, I think, has a problem. My college degree is not in what it seems like anything. Well, my college degree is in speech communication. And one of the lines that we used to use was that the more thinking you did outside of the presentation, the less thinking you have to do during it. Right? Do you understand? And so over time, it's like, and people that have watched me for years will tell you that it sounds kind of boring, because if I'm asked the question, 10 years later, I'm giving pretty much word for word the same answer, right? I'm not thinking anymore, right? So that makes it easier to think about things I do need to think about. I would prepare a opening, set the stage script. And this one has an agenda. You could type up an agenda. You ought to have an agenda. Needs analysis. Now, these are just some questions. One of the things that I've included, and I'm going to skip a little bit further, and there's some stuff here about agency and dual agency and all of that, and buyer agency agreement, and what happens if they don't sign. So I'm pretty much, what I'm doing at the beginning is I'm going through what is in your packet. And by the way, Keller Williams, was that a question? Oh, I thought you were signaling. Usually when I see that, people are throwing something, so I was getting ready. But I have people throwing stuff at me, and it wasn't money or underwear. I knew Hillary would like that one. So this is a sample buyer dialogue that I wrote up. And the general consensus of people that look at this is that it seems kind of long. But this is my close, and this is not something I would do at the beginning, but this is something I would do at the end of the consultation. After I've talked about needs and wants and the process and all that sort of stuff. And notice how I start off. Is there anything I have not asked you about buying a home that you feel I should know? All right? Because by this time, I've asked a lot of questions. And this may not be in the perfect order, but this is what I did this morning. This is how I did it. What I would like to do now is show you how I would like to work with you in buying a home and see if it is agreeable with you. First, I'd like to cover a few things with you to be sure that you understand how my profession works. I work on commission only. Do you realize that there are some people that don't understand things? That there are actually people that think if you spend time with them, they owe you money, right? There are some people that think that. I do not get paid a salary. I do not get paid for my time or reimbursed for meals or gasoline. I'm self-employed. The seller pays the real estate fee. That, you'll see, is an important concept, right? And I actually have a copy of my buyer representation PowerPoint slide, which I'm willing to share with you, which talks about that. For those of you that like PowerPoint, you can modify it. It's, I don't know, sort of a garish blue. When we find a home, I'll be compensated with a portion of that fee. So to you, John and Mary, there is no fee that you'll pay me for my service in helping you buy a home. Right? That's stage one. But I want you to know that when you leave my office here today, you are probably going to see lots of for sale signs on properties from different real estate companies. When you look in magazines, newspapers, that I would change to internet. It's quit laughing. I'm too cheerful. You're going to find advertisements from many other properties from different companies. I want you to make sure that you know that my company is a member of multiple listing services. I can show you any property with any sign on it. I can show you any property that's advertised on the internet. There it is. There are home magazines. There are. I should have an age cutoff for people to come to my classes. Whatever. It's 2 years older than Hillary, whatever that is.
Some of this content would be great for some email drip campaigns.
Yes, and you're welcome to. One of the things that I learned the hard way was that when we started doing email drip campaigns, I took all of my basic scripts for buyers and I created email drip campaigns and nobody cared and it didn't work. Right, and so I found that the communication by email is a different type of message and structured differently than what you would say if you were in front of somebody.
Sure.
That's what I found. But the concepts are good. So what we're saying, I would like to request, if you see the sign on the property, you'd like to see the inside, that you call me. I'll make arrangements to the other company. If you see an ad on the internet for a home that appeals to you, I request you call me directly so I can check it out and get you in the property. Right, you notice what I'm doing in this script is I'm basically shutting all the doors for them to try to work on their own. Now, John, that is an essential requirement for me to be compensated. If you look at a property with another realtor, there's a possibility I'd not be paid, even if you came back to me and asked me to write the contract. Also, if you see a property that's for sale by owner, I'll make arrangements for you to get in. And by the way, one of the other things that I would include now is new home subdivisions. Right? That would require a modification of the script. Somebody may take notes and write that in, but I would add in new home subdivisions. Well, new home subdivisions also allow you to, and by the way, I actually have a website with all the new home subdivisions. There's a Keller Williams. It's called New Home Ambassador. And for a really nominal fee, like $25, they'll give you a new home subdivision website. It's not the best looking one, but it has most of the new home subdivisions. And if handled right, they'll pay you. Right? You understand? One of the things that wouldn't be bad for you to do, you notice how the office, we had a thing at KB Homes and Communication Hill, they'll pay you, right? And the what you're going to, if I would put this in as part of the script, because why would they need an agent for a new home subdivision? Well, one is that it's possible for you to find out about upgrades and deals and discounts if they're not necessarily telling everybody. Number two, you might be able to give them advice on which units would have a better resale value when it comes time to selling, right? And does it cost them anything to have an agent represent them in a new home? And the answer is no, it does not, right? So how do you feel about that? Right? Yes.
With the subdivision scenario, you as the buyer's agent would still get a commission?
Some of the new home subdivisions are paying 3.5% to the agent who brings them somebody. You have to register, right? You have to register. This is another topic.
What is it mean? Okay.
Well, what it means is let's say you have somebody who's interested in a new home. You have to go with them and register at the new home subdivision.
They give you a form.
Yeah, you fill out a form and you put your name down and you register them, and then if they buy, you get paid a commission. The commission could be 3.5%. And you don't have to do much.
Okay.
Right? So if you're interested in pursuing that, which by the way, I have people that I'm working with that are pursuing this. And what they've done is they've gone to the new home subdivisions, introduced themselves, talked to the reps, how does registration work, and they would find out, are there any promotions going on, doing anything? And then they would go to Facebook and they would write a post that says, hey, there's, call me if you're interested, they're giving away this, they're doing that, they're having a discount, they're selling out, call me, right? But what you want to do, the point of all this, and all my scripts might need a little bit of modifying, is that you want to lose them to a new home subdivision. Now, I actually have two websites, one I pay for, one not so much, that have new home subdivision links. New Home Ambassador, if you were to type that into Google and put in Keller Williams, you're going to find that for a virtually nothing, you can have a new home link to a website. And it has the new homes in the area. Just what I'm trying to say is I'd like to know if you'd be willing to make a commitment exclusively with me. If I'm going to take my time and energy to help you find a property, I'd like to know if you're willing to work with me exclusively as a realtor. Would you be willing to do that? Right? This is directly asking them the question. Yes or no? I've known real estate agents that were afraid, reticent to ask that question because they're afraid they would say no.
Rejection.
Right? And so, by the way, I can remember shoving the California Association of Realtors buyer representation agreement in front of a couple that had come into the office after I had done this little speech. And I handed them the pen, the husband's holding the pen, and the wife looks at him and she says, what about Joe? And I said, who's Joe? Joe is a part-time real estate agent that told them that if they were to go find a home, he'd write the offer for them and give them half the commission.
Half the commission.
Half the commission.
Wow.
So they were there to see me so that I would help them find the property so that Joe could write the offer.
That's not cool.
Right. I took back my pen. They asked if I would print out the properties I had on the MLS, and I said, why don't you ask Joe? And they said, well, Joe's not a member of the MLS. And I said, well, goodbye. So would you rather know that now, or would you rather spend 3 weeks showing them property and then find out that Joe was there?
Is
Right.
that how it ended?
I told them that was it, they were gone.
You're done with
I was done with them. Because they were unwilling to make a commitment, and I was unwilling to make a commitment, or they were unwilling to make a commitment.
So basically, this guarantee is not proof of paper. It doesn't matter if they sign it or not.
It doesn't, the guarantee is not a legal contract. In order for a contract to pay a real estate agent a commission in California to be a binding agreement, it must contain certain magic words. Those words are: the rate or amount of commission is not set by law, but can be negotiated between the broker and the client, and it has to be in Helvetica 10-point boldface type. And that is not in that contract, which means it's not illegally enforceable. But what I was saying the other day was the chances of you enforcing the California Association of Realtors buyer representation agreement is slim to none. First of all, you, as a salesperson, lack standing. What legal standing means is that you do not have a legal right to enforce that contract on your own. Who does?
Broker.
The broker. You think Matt wants to do this? And you think he wants to hire a lawyer and sue somebody for a commission when we didn't sell him a house? Right? You can ask him when he walks by, but I don't think that's necessary because I know how brokers think, and the answer is no, they don't want to do that. Right? So do you understand? We're not doing this to set up. You don't have to sneak in. It's okay. There's a handout. Brandy's hogging the handout. Are you okay, Brandy?
Yeah,
You seem
quiet.
quiet.
Oh,
You just woke up.
yeah, pretty
Right,
much.
so that's normally with me. So since the goal is not to establish not to set up a future lawsuit, right? You understand, that's not the
But
goal.
it still does not prevent you from,
Talking about it, and will people, I went through that list. You could say nothing. You could do I want to be your agent. You could ask for a verbal commitment. This is the verbal commitment. And having them sign that service guarantee is raising the level of commitment a little bit. They've actually signed a piece of paper, right? If any time you feel I'm not doing my job, this does not mean that you are committed to continue working with me. I hope over the time or not doing something you ought to be doing, let me know. Either I'll correct the problem or we can so part friends you can work with another realtor, but I think it's your advantage to work with one person who you like, trust, and feel comfortable with, because that person in turn will put forth the most effort for helping you find your home. That's a speech, right? Thank you. So, and you're going to find there's a lot of scripts. That's pretty much what I said. I would go through and explain it, and I would ask them for a commitment, right? And I modified it over time in that I got more specific. I'll show you my buyer representation at some point. But then the next group of forms, this is what's called a buyer lead sheet. And all of this is available. I have the originals to all of these things. Most of them are available on the Keller Williams website. If you go to Keller Williams and you log in and you go to education and you go to Keller Williams University and you find Win with Buyers or Win the Buyers and Ignite, and you just are curious, you're going to find originals, Microsoft Word versions of all these things. And this is just a way for you to to capture contact information. These are some pre-qualification questions. Not bad. The DISC profile, you can somewhat tell by the way you're talking with people as to whether or not. Hi, Eric, you want to say hello?
Sure.
Who are you? What do you do? Why are you here?
Good. Is it morning still?
Yeah.
It is morning. Good morning, everybody. My name is Eric Relamis. I'm with Chicago Title, and I've met some of you. Most of you I haven't. I'll give you some of my cards. And basically what I'm here to do is help you with your business, help you grow it. We offer farming services and so forth, and other services, a plethora of tools that we can offer you, and we'd be happy to help with your business. So, title and escrow.
That's it. Cool.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Absolutely. My website's on the card. A lot of information there, so you can visit the website. If you have any questions, feel free to call.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Did you want to offer a rebuttal?
We can do everything that he just said, but even better.
All right. So anyhow, it's good for you
Thank you.
to have, sorry about this already, multiple contacts in title and escrow, multiple contacts and lenders. And one of the things, Brandy was putting this together, one of the things, do you guys have a buyer guide?
Mhm.
So what I would recommend that you do is you collect stuff and look at the stuff the different title and escrow companies have, okay? Including a buyer guide. Yes?
I have an interesting story. I just have a transaction and in Haber, so it's Alameda County.
Yeah.
The buyer pays escrow fee. So I was thinking I will choose the escrow, but no. They said it's already open.
Yeah, they already open escrow. The listing agent chooses the escrow company.
Oh, even if it's buyer fee?
Yes, even if it's a buyer fee.
Okay.
All right. So moving on, these are just some forms, and what I would suggest that you do, I'm giving you sort of the dump. I explained where you could find the originals. What I would encourage you to do is to go through and find the ones that you like, that you relate to, that you might want to use. This is a list of what you can expect from me. This is part of this is what I would call setting ground rules, right? And so here's a list of what you do to me. Let's use a scale of 1 to 10 for you telling me whether or not these things are not important or extremely important to you. Now, can anybody understand why we might want to go through this process with a prospective client? Is what I think important always what they think is important? And is what they think important always what I think is important? So I might think some things are really important, but they may not, right? But if we go through this and we ask them to rate, now you should look at this list. Some of the things, I will provide you with a CMA on all the homes you're interested in. You see that? Right? You've heard me talk about that. Before you show homes, you ought to be able to do research to see what. Now, how many buyers can you effectively work with using the system that I've been describing at any one time? The answer is probably 3. All right? And even at 3, it's kind of crazy. Right? You understand? If you're going to do everything that I suggest that you ought to do, and the big ones are preview the homes before you show them and do a market analysis on them before you show them, right? Those are the big ones, right? And if you're going to do a real buyer consultation where you explain the process and you spend some time on it, 3 is probably the most you're going to be able to handle. 3 buyers. So does that mean you need to be selective in who you're going to work with? All right? And so I'll educate you on all these terms, I'll coordinate and supervise. And I've had people say, oh, they're all. Now that I've told you how I work, please tell me what else will make this a 10+ experience. The biggest complaint that people have with real estate agents is lack of communication. Biggest complaint, number 1, lack of communication. And what causes a dissidence is the difference between expectations and reality. Does everybody understand that? That's what causes, this is called cognitive dissonance. This is what causes unhappiness, is the difference between expectations and reality. Right? So would it be appropriate, and so what is happiness? Happiness is when there is congruence between expectations and reality. Isn't that right? So I come from Morgan Hill and I pull out on the freeway and it's clear sailing, I'm happy. Is that right? But if I pull out on the freeway and it's bumper to bumper traffic, I'm unhappy. I see people pounding the steering wheel and their dashboard, and what they're doing is they're punishing reality. Is that right? Right? I'll teach you. So the more clear we can be on expectations, the less likely we're going to have cognitive dissonance, which means unhappy people. Can you describe exactly what I need to do to accomplish that? What else do you want me to do? What do I need to do? Can you tell me why, what's important about that? As a general rule, you might want to probe something to 3 levels, right? So why is that important? What does that mean to you? What does that look like? Yeah. If we could add one more thing, what would that be? Can you describe exactly what I do? Does everybody see where I'm going with this? If we could add another thing to make it a 10 plus plus, what would that be? All right. Now there's a class which I'm going to be doing at some point on customer service, but if we do this and if people say, no, that's it, we're done, then you don't have to keep pushing it. But if we do this, are we more likely to solicit from them what their expectations are when working with us? More clarity. By the way, do you think most real estate agents have this conversation? How many of you have worked with a buyer? Did you have this conversation? No. Most people do not. Have you ever worked with a real estate consultant or agent before? Yes or no? Great. If they say yes, tell me more. No, can you tell me more? Did you buy a house? Have you ever bought a house without one? What did you like about this person? What didn't you like? By the way, this pattern is very similar to what I would do on a listing appointment. Have you ever sold a house before? Yeah. Cool. What did you like? What didn't you like? Right. Do you understand if we ask enough questions, they're going to tell us how to sell to them. Remember the 4 steps? The 4 steps for any kind of a presentation. Number 1 is build rapport. People don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. Number 2, qualify, which means ask questions. Number 3 is show, and we ask questions to uncover problems. And number 3 is we show people how we can help them with their problems. And number 4 is close. Those are the 4 steps. And if we ask enough questions, they will tell us what we need to say in order to get their commitment. How does somebody win with you? How does somebody lose with you? Now, you're going to see variations of this. I'm going to go through the fancy looking Keller Williams material and show you how to get it. But what I mean by win or lose, can you remember the last time you had a really great customer experience? Can you remember? Where you thought, wow, that was really great, that person did a wonderful job. Can you remember that? What was it? Can you tell me about it? What was it that made that a great customer experience? Can you remember when you had a terrible customer experience? What did that look like? Right? Now this may seem like we're spending time on this, but people that do good buyer consultation spend a lot of time on expectations. Right? And what does a good customer experience look like? When I advise you on your home purchase from a scale of 1 to 10, with 1 being indirect and 10 being absolutely direct, how do you want me to communicate with you? Now, if we are of a personality style called a high D, we would like people generally to just tell us. I was meeting with a person I'm coaching that's an extremely high D, and she just wants me to just tell her, right? That's what she wants. Doesn't want it sugar-coated, doesn't want, just say it, right? If asked a question, she wants a yes or a no, right? Do you understand? But not everybody's like that. And so on a 10 or less, so what do you mean by, they say, I don't want you to be absolutely direct, well, what do you mean by that? Can you think of some times where we might need to be very direct with somebody who's thinking about buying a house? What would that look like? What's so funny, Brandon?
Nancy.
So I mentioned the line where somebody says we want to think about it, and I say that's great if they say we want to sleep on it, and I've said if you sleep on it, you might never sleep in it. You realize that? Right? If you sleep on it, you might never sleep in it.
Comedian, Richard.
But so you may have, but you understand people that say I want to think about it, and you say I how you feel. It's a big decision. I understand what you want to think about it, but you need to understand that there's a lot of people interested in this property, and that if you think about it, you may not be able to own it. You understand that? Right. And then they say, well, we want to offer, my uncle tells me that we ought to offer less than the list price because you never know. Yes, so your uncle's a real estate professional. No, he drives a taxi. I get you.
Who drives the taxi these days?
I don't know. He drives Uber. So might we have to have a direct conversation with them? That we're in a market where people are generally paying more than the listed price. The listing agent is giving out 15 disclosure packages. He's expecting 5 or 6 offers. If you lowball, you're never going to buy the house you want. I've actually said these words to people. You realize your dream home has probably come on the market since you started looking and was bought by somebody else. You realize that? It's probably happened several times. You've lost it. It came, it went, someone else got it. How would you like to make sure that never happens again? Right? So, should we ask people, though, do they want us to be direct or not? If we get their permission to be direct, is that different than us just hitting them with a 2x4? So, buyer consultation questionnaire. I'm using this because I actually like this format. The other one looks fancier. It's basically the same questions. Who will be living in the home you purchase? Will anyone else be spending more than an occasional overnight stay? Right? Would that have an effect on what we're looking for? Describe your lifestyle. What do you do enjoying at home? Do you do a lot of entertaining? How do you spend your time in the evenings and the weekends? Does your home need to accommodate any special needs? Do you have any pets? Do you have anything? On we go, right? Is there anything I should know about your lifestyle that I have not asked? Notice that's how I actually started my script, right? Is there anything that, right, remember at the end, you'll notice that this comes up again. Tell me about your ideal location. What is your maximum commute time and distance? What is your work address? Are schools important? Any particular view? Right, we did that, you know, what else is important about your location?
Are these questions available in Ignite to enter in the CRM system?
Say that again.
In the CRM platform EH?
There's something very similar.
Capture the information in the system?
So,
for us to use in the future or reference instead of on a piece of paper?
yes. Yes.
Can you show us where?
Well, okay.
I mean, so he's not asking if he can get that packet. He's
Yeah,
asking, is it in
within the platform
Is it
itself, so you
platform?
enter their first name, your last name, your lead qualifying, building the relationship. Are these questions available there to populate for us to reference in the future?
Is it in the contact data?
Yes.
Okay.
However, it may not be exactly what you're thinking. So one of the things that you can do, either using the built-in system called .loop or our system called SkySlope, and I have to admit I've not taken the time to do this, although I did it once a year or two ago, is I have software that'll convert forms like this into a interactive PDF, right? If you have Adobe Acrobat, I happen to have that on one computer, but I also have, we're not talking about Acrobat Reader, right? We're talking about the real program. I also have a PDF of Foxit Phantom, which will do it. Plus, if you were to Google search creating interactive PDF forms, you will find that there are various free websites that will do it if you're too thrifty to buy the Adobe Acrobat, which is an expensive piece of software, but there's online forms. And so what I've done in the past, now integrating it into a customer relationship management system is a different thing, right? But can we create an online version of this form that people could fill out in advance? The answer is yeah, you could do that. Right? Now, if you wanted to make it a real form, that would be an online form that would go into a spreadsheet. Let's see who's got geek in them. What would be a free system that you could use to create an online form of virtually any length where the information, when filled out, would end up in a spreadsheet?
Wufoo?
Wufoo? Wufoo won't make it that long. Wufoo will let you do 3 forms. Google Forms will allow you to create an online form which would go into Google Sheets, which is a spreadsheet that could be opened by Excel. The question really is, do you need all this information in your customer relationship management system? I'm not sure you do, right? I'm not entirely sure you do. But if you want people to fill this out in advance, you could make a fillable PDF. There's a very famous company called PDF Filler that just got sued by the California Association of Realtors for over $130 million for taking CIR forms and making them fillable, right? But there's lots of free software that will do this. You could create something that you could send to somebody in advance and let them fill it out in advance. I actually believe there's a video of me showing how to use what's called the dot loop system that's built into Keller Williams, which is a free form filling electronic signature program, and I had scanned these things and I was dropping in the different text boxes, which was a little bit time consuming, but I was bored one day, so I did that. Right? So the answer is yes, you could do this. One of the issues has to be that there's Michael Mayer wrote a book called The 7 Levels of Communication. And the top of his little pyramid is one-on-one communication. And although I would have some of this in advance for people to fill out, some of it would be much better to do, because a lot of these questions, although they might seem like qualifying questions, are also sort of rapport building questions. Right, do you understand? There was a guy that I had hired and coached at one point who was a retired software engineer, and he had decided that he was going to write a program that collected all the data anybody could ever have about buying a house. And then he would put that into his database program and therefore find them the perfect house, and he was very disappointed. Very disappointed, because it isn't necessarily about data collection. To a large extent, this is about the experience of going through this with somebody. Right? But the answer is yes, you could create interactive PDFs. You could make a form. My program would take, especially, by the way, some of these are available on Keller Williams' site as Microsoft Word documents, which means you can copy and paste it into Google Forms easily, and you could pay somebody elsewhere in the world to do it for a nominal fee, and they would make it and send it back to you. Right? I would seriously look at what information. I think there might be some value in sending them something in advance, but I wouldn't dump all of the questions in. Right?
Yeah, certainly the personal information helps to have.
Right, some of it.
Codified.
I'm not saying there's a video of me doing this, right, because I don't know. But some of this would be done in a consultation. Well, part of the reason why we want to do this one-on-one, besides building rapport, is we want there to be an experience that they're not interested in duplicating relatively soon. Right? I think you've lost everybody with that comment. Have you had a thorough medical exam recently? Anyone? A thorough medical exam? No. Is anybody unsure as to whether they did or not? No. No. So if you've had one, you knew it. And by the way, if you had a thorough medical exam, what are you going to be saying when you leave? You know, maybe I ought to call another doctor. Is that what's on your mind? Maybe I'll go talk, or do you want to not see another doctor? Right? You want to avoid doctors. Right? Because you're afraid they're going to give you another thorough medical exam. So if we do this right and give them a thorough exam, the last thing they want to do is go talk to another real estate agent. And when somebody says, hey, I can help you buy a home, they're going to say, no. No way. I'm not coming into your office. I'm not falling for that again. All right. So questions about the house. Basically, it gives us an ability to ask questions. You can take notes. There is something, by the way, when one person is speaking, the other person is taking notes, that creates a bond and respect. And it's too late, Jamal, now, because this is something that I've only read about as a theory, because most of the time when I'm talking, people don't take notes, right? But if somebody is talking, except for Hillary, but if somebody is talking, if you're talking and somebody's taking notes about what you're saying, what do you think about that?
They're paying attention.
Right. And that you're important to them, right? So having this printed out and going through it and even doing handwritten notes, it's not all about technology, right? It's not all about technology. All right, house structure, any story size, architectural style, interior, bedrooms. I don't need to read all this to you, do I? But this is a good list. My 10 plus customer experience agreement for buyers, and this is just sort of a variation. I have probably 15 different things that you could do, like my service guarantee. I have to admit I wrote that a long time ago. And I've never been motivated enough to change it. Because I read it, I don't see anything in it that's really wrong or out of date. I'm not motivated. If you don't like it, this comes from Keller Williams training program, and this isn't a bad list. If you're going to say, here is what I'm going to do for you, this isn't a bad list. Right? You understand? That's not a bad list. Right? And if I had a lot of free time, I would take all the lists I have and look at them and come up with a master list, but I don't think it's that important, right? Not everybody is into looking at the list. All right? The 5 must-haves. So you only get 5. I used to tell people this. You only get 5. And when they were talking, oh, that's 6. It's a problem. You only get 5.
Why 5?
Well, why not? If you, so your kid's birthday is coming up, would you tell them to just, you know how on Amazon you can click something for a wish list? Would you tell them to just go there and click anything that they're interested in? No. Why? Because how many things do they click? Thousands, right? You understand?
Yeah.
Right? And then it's like, no. So you might say, really fine, right? I'll pick something out of this. Would you understand if people are given too many, the goal is to expand the selection, not narrow it. This may be counterintuitive, right? The reason for the buyer consultation is not to narrow the field, but to expand it. Does everybody understand that? Because many times they're going to describe a house that does not exist. I want it to be a relatively new home. I only want it to be 10, 15 minutes from where I work. I don't want to pay over $750. I like it to have a big backyard. It's got to be in a nice neighborhood. It can't be in a noisy street. You're saying that house does not exist in Santa Clara County, right? So something's got to give. So you should write down these in the buyer's guide and then during the showing process. One of the things you might want, and by the way, this trips out some real estate agents, but you need to know that what people eventually buy may not look like what they describe here. You shouldn't let that bother you. If it bothers you, you can't sell real estate to buyers. Because was it Lao Tzu? Sun Tzu wrote in The Art of War that no battle plan survives contact with the enemy. It wasn't Lao Tzu, it was Sun Tzu, right? Anyhow, Lao Tzu wrote the Tao Te Ching. Anyhow, so they don't know what they want until they see what's available that they can pick on. You understand? That's sometimes the reality. Beyond those 5 things, what else do you really want to have? If you have somebody else, what would that be? If you have one last thing, what would it be? And we're writing it down. Now this is something, I don't know why I included that, but that's okay. I was doing this, I was scanning this morning. Ways to communicate. Is this a good thing to discuss with people? There are people that are going to say, I don't want you to call me. Right? They want you to text them. I have friends that are in my same age group who only text. I don't know what happened to them. Right? They only text.
They don't want to talk to you, Mike.
They have hearing aids. Thank you, Natalia. Yes, people in my age group generally have crutches and hearing aids. So should we have a discussion about during the day, what is the best way to contact you? If I need to call you at work, if I have to get your signature, most people are cool with the online e-signatures. At the beginning, the first time you write an offer with somebody, you ought to do it in person and go through the form with them. That's my opinion. I have to admit, I sold a house this year. I probably told this story to a buyer I had not met. I sold them a house I had not seen, and I wrote the contract and went through the contract using my GoToMeeting software online, and they signed it, right? But that's an unusual thing, right? So usually you're going to, at least at the beginning, meet with them and go through the purchase agreement. And Brandy started working on our buyer consultation. She has some stuff. She has a copy of the Why You're Going to Be Killed If You Live in Your Home book, and something like that. Where was I going with this? Oh, and in it, there's a sample purchase contract, right? Which I believe is a good thing to give to somebody so they could start reading it now. And is that going to be easier than when you're writing an offer? That's the first time they ever saw one, right? So giving them a copy and letting them read it and then ask questions is a little bit better. How often do you expect to hear from me? My expectations of you. Don't hesitate to call if you have any questions. If I don't answer, I'll find the point in the right direction to get it if I don't have the answer. Timely return phone calls, timely return documents requiring signatures, and that's actually something you could send to somebody in advance. Buyer loyalty agreement, this isn't mine, but it's something similar to mine. If you like it better, I'm not going to be hurt. This is another what I expect from my clients. Again, all this stuff is pretty much available on KW. I basically threw in the kitchen sink for you so that you could go through and find stuff that you related to, that you liked, and you could start assembling your own little package. All right, and then I have an easy button coming. Here's the contract to close flow chart.
Nice.
Which is a nice one, a home tour checklist. And then at this point where it says buyer's consultation, this is a black and white version of the Michael Lewis Marketing Suite. How many of you know how to log into the Michael Lewis Marketing Suite? And Jamal, did you get an email from my,
Actually,
you're doing it right now. Cool. So in the Michael Lewis Marketing Suite, there's a button that says free tools, and you can download this. It comes in PowerPoint. The reason they do it in PowerPoint is because everybody's got PowerPoint. Isn't that right? If you don't have PowerPoint, I don't know what to say. But Google Docs will open up a PowerPoint document. Open Office, which is a free program, just go. It means you don't have basic Microsoft Office. So, shame on you. So this is a template, and there's some stuff here, and you should, by the way, change that name and change the address. This is just an example. You should put in your picture. You should put in your information, right? You should customize it. Your guide to buying a home. Notice the home buying process. It's a little bit different, but not a bad one. Right? There it is. This, by the way, looks really nice when it gets printed out. Buying your home. This talks about the loan process. Making an offer. See, it's got more stuff. Closing 101. Your guide is all about you. It's all about you. That's what you say when you're breaking up with somebody, isn't it? It's all about you. It wasn't me. It was you. So your needs, your dreams, your concerns, your questions, your I don't know. Your home search, there's stuff like that. Getting started now. By the way, I believe in the one that I made a video of, I took this page and I created I used .loop, but you could do it on SkySlope, and it would be a fun thing to practice. You can create a template, and you have to drop in the different fields, and you can send it to somebody in advance, right, which has some of the stuff. I believe that's the one I was doing. Questions, lifestyle interview. You'll notice these questions are very similar to the other ones. It's just in a nicer format with the new logo. And more, these are pretty much the same questions. Your home wish list, pretty much the same questions. Pretty much the same questions. Frequently asked questions. How does somebody win or lose with you? Remember that? Moving checklist. Agents call me up and they say, do you have a moving checklist that you can send me? Now, first of all, if you went to Google and opened up a tab and typed in moving checklist, guess what you're going to find? Thousands of them, right? But people, they send me emails. It takes them longer to write the email than it would be to ask Google for a moving checklist, right? But there's a moving checklist for those of you that want one. Above and beyond. And by the way, some of this, it talks about following service professionals and highly recommend them to my clients. So you ought to look at this. I've actually seen agents, they just printed it out with the wrong picture, right? In fact, one of my compadres, one of my, the productivity coach in Southwest Austin Market Center, actually put big red X's over all the things, and she told me people still print it out and give it to me. Right? And it's like, I told her, I know how you feel. I do. I understand your pain. Right? So what you would need to do is customize this a little bit, and you could come up with some following service professionals. Right? So people call me, what kind of service professionals would they want? They're talking about buyers.
A moving team.
A moving team, moving companies. What else?
Plumbers.
Plumbers,
Home inspection.
home inspections, what? Cleaners, landscapers, painters, contractors. Could this be an opportunity? So agents call me up and they say, you know a landscaper? And my answer is, no. So what I would do, there's a video of me going through this, is I would call landscapers up and say, hi, my name's Mike, I'm Gilligan's Realty. I have clients and now that need a landscaper, and I know I'm going to need landscape. My clients are going to need landscapers in the future. I noticed that you're doing really well on Yelp. Got a lot of positive reviews. Are you accepting new customers at this time? Yes or no? I've had people say, no, I'm not. I'm busy and booked. I can't. Cool. Call another one. Most people are going to say, yes, we're taking new clients at this time. Wonderful. Perhaps we could work together. I'd like to find out more about your services. By the way, when you have clients that have questions about real estate, do you have a real estate agent that you refer them to? If they say yes, as a matter of fact, I do. I have a guy said, I'm a member of a networking group, and there's an agent there, and he sends me business, and I send all my business to him. I'd say, great, wonderful, have a great day, and I'd call another landscaper. Right? If you called enough landscapers, are you going to find somebody who says, well, actually, no, I don't have anybody that I refer any business to. No one's referring anything to me either. Wonderful, I'd like to work with you. Would that be, put them on the list? Right? When I was at Century 21, we did stop wearing gold jackets. I just want you to know that. Right?
Yeah.
We did stop wearing gold jackets. Although I have to admit, I've owned many gold jackets over the years. Because of the gold thing, I called mine the Gold Client Appreciation Club, and I actually spent a big effort in finding people that would refer business to me that were doing things that my clients would want. Right? And sometimes they would have a coupon they would throw in, if you're my client, you get $50 off or $10, whatever, right? You understand? This is an opportunity. That list is an opportunity for you to build your business, right? So you ought to have some here. what my clients say, don't just include this. All right, you understand, if you don't have any clients that have said anything nice about you, then just don't use this page. But don't just throw it in, seller's name. Don't just throw it in. What's ahead? Now, that pretty much takes us to the end of that presentation. I threw in a couple of scripts from a friend of mine, Julie Youngblood, who is a productivity coach in Lost Wages, Nevada. And these are just a couple of her scripts for the buyer-broker agreement, a couple of them. And this is another one on the buyer consultation, setting the table. And I just thought I would throw all that in for you to practice. Right? By the way, if you don't know what to do, you could read these scripts over and over again every day. If you were to have a schedule, because that says I like to make a lot of money in real estate, one of the things you ought to be time blocking is studying the market. You ought to time block previewing homes, and you ought to time block script practice. Right? You ought to practice reading these scripts aloud over and over and over and over again until you internalize them, memorize them, and can deliver them. And if you don't like them, write your own. If you want to cut and paste your own together, I don't care. If you go into Keller Williams and you type in scripts, you're going to find script catalogs. If you go to Google and you type in buyer consultation scripts, there's a guy named Eichhauer that has a great website with scripts and videos and things like that. And yes, he's also a Keller Williams trainer. Brian Eichhauer, you found Kevin Ward. You can overdo this, right? You understand? But what you ought to do is to come up with what you feel comfortable with doing and saying. All right, was that enough? Fun? Fun? Fun. Sounds like fun.